Hello, everybody. Welcome to Counselor's Couch 101. I am Jim Stump, still. Want to remind you, if you'd like to send us an email, the address is counselorscouch101 at mail.com. Counselorscouch101 at mail.com. I'm getting some interesting ideas. And what I'd like to do is to keep these posts relevant to what's going on in viewers' lives and what's going on in the country and the culture today. So if you'd send in your comments and your emails about what you're interested in and what you're concerned about, we can stay focused on relevant issues, right? A couple of things came up this last week, and one of them is something I've been trying to figure out for myself for a while, and that is how to make this channel interactive, right? I'd like to get more input from the viewers, and I think we all can help each other. I started out in counseling by doing peer counseling, just talking to folks who needed someone to sit down with them and talk things over and let them vent and get rid of their anxieties and their depressions and so forth. We can all benefit from helping one another, and I'm hoping that's how this channel can go in the future, because I think the culture needs it. A lot of fears coming up about the future, about income, the economy, whether we're going to have a big depression, whether inflation is going to eat away all our money, our prices are going to be unaffordable, etc., etc., etc. Now, a while back, I had a gentleman who was concerned about a job. He wanted to leave a particular job, but he had some concerns about how to do it, etc., etc. And someone wrote in, sent me an email, and said that he had experience dealing with people who were making transitions in jobs. Well, I was able to connect the two of them, and the guy that wrote in was able to assist the guy that was worried about the job and the anxiety around it. And they both thanked me for that connection. I would like to see more of that, really, and interaction. And then last week, I figured out, I sort of already knew it, but I was sort of came to full understanding when I was thinking about it. A lady commented on one of my posts, and she said something about having conflict with coworkers and the like. And I thought to myself, well, this is a perfect place for people to interact. Let's say someone writes in, they put in a comment with a problem or a situation they got going on. That is the perfect time for all of you out there to join in that conversation, offer your suggestions and your support and etc. Right? Perfect time. And if something is has the interest of a lot of people, I can put another post on it. We could start another chain, another link, another series of responses to that particular topic. So if something comes up along the way and you see something in a comment and you'd like to participate in that comment, please do. That's the way we can make this interactive, right? I told the lady about the job, the problem with coworkers. I said the first thing I have to know is I have to gather more information. That's really the first thing. I've spoken to several people who had problems with their jobs over the last few years. Ever since COVID hit, things have been quite different in employment. And by talking to them, I try to understand the circumstance and the thing that they're upset about, the thing that they're unhappy with. And then I try to find their strengths and the things they already have in place in their life that they might turn to and utilize to solve the problem wherever they are. Now, in several instances, this is not always the case. I've had some successes with people who worked out issues with coworkers, right? But in several instances, it came to the point where they just said, I just can't stay here anymore. These people are hounding me. They want something that's impossible. And several times they said, 5 or 6 people have already quit because of all this kind of stuff, and now they're just dumping more on me instead of supporting me and helping me and showing me how to get through all these things that need to get done. They're just putting more on me and complaining more that I'm not doing more to solve all of their problems for them. And eventually they had to leave. But of course, before they left, they found other employment and then stepped out of the job into the new employment. That was the way to go for several people. But oftentimes, if we talk about a problem, like I say, look for the strengths and the things that you already have in place that can help you with the problem. We can work something out. Oftentimes, if you talk to somebody, first of all, I know this sounds difficult or impossible a lot of times, but talk to the person that you're having a problem with if you can, right? Oftentimes, I hear that that person is not available, not amenable to talking about issues and like that. In which case, you have to look for another avenue of solving the issue. But there is always a solution, right? Or always is. I always tell folks, what's the worst thing that can happen? I said, are you going to become homeless? And they say no. And I say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? And they describe it. And I say, all right, can you live with that? They say, well, yeah, if I have to. And I say, okay, then there's nothing to fear. You can step up and challenge this issue that you're having with coworkers, right? You have nothing to fear, because the worst that can happen is something you can handle, something you can live with. And so be brave about it. Voice your concerns, voice your dissatisfactions, and ask for what you need. Oftentimes, it's just a question of asking someone else to back off a little bit and allow the person to do the job. But we discover that by exploring the situation and the things that could help that is already available. In other words, like I said, gather information, talk to the person, find out what's going on in their lives, what they can do to rectify a difficult situation. Gather information. And once again, I make no decisions for anybody. We just explore things with folks, and folks make up their own minds. They make their own decisions about what to do next. We just gather information and open up maybe some new thoughts about a situation, allow someone to decide what they want to do. That was one thing. So if you want to get involved and participate in people's issues around the country and whoever's posting here, please do. I welcome it. Respond to comments. Send in emails. CounselorsCouch101@mail.com. Send them in. Yes, I'm busy. It's hard to keep up, but we do eventually get there. And if things are posted that are relevant to something that just happened recently, we try to get to those first. And there was the second thing that came up. Actually, this is an issue that comes up many times. It's popped up over the years, and it always puzzles me. And I could appreciate some feedback from all of you on this one. It just kills me, and I've been there. I know it's true. I know that it's a real issue, and it's not easily solved, and it's not even easily addressed, right? But it has to do with people being unhappy in their relationships, primarily in marriages. Now, I'm not trying to be sexist or misogynistic or anything else, but oftentimes ladies are complaining about their circumstances. This is more so prior to COVID than it is right now, but it's still there. Women are still in unhappy circumstances. And I was talking to a lady a couple of days ago, and she reminded me of a woman that I spoke to decades back, right? I try to use examples from long ago so no one gets offended, right? The issue is current, it's present, it's now. But some of the examples that I use to illustrate them, I try to draw from history, like I say, so no one gets offended, if we can do that. This lady came in decades ago. She had 3 children. I can't remember, she had twins and then a single child. And I can't remember which came first. It may have been that the single child came first and then the twins came after that. They were very young. I think, like 3 to 5 in that age range, right? I take that back. It couldn't have been 5. It had to be a bit younger. Because the lady in question was 25 years old at the time, and she had 3 kids. Now, her circumstance was that she had been in a bad relationship, I think from high school all the way through college. She was a cheerleader. She was a petite little thing. She was as thin as paper, right? And apparently she was very popular at her school and in her cheerleading and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she ended up in a very bad relationship, and it broke up acrimoniously, right? She immediately rebounded into a relationship with another man who married her within a short period of time, and they had those kids and like that. Now, a few years later, she's 25 years old. She graduated college. She's got these 3 kids, and she's extremely unhappy. Now, you think she came through the door complaining about things like that? She did not. She came through the door complaining of being depressed, of being unmotivated, of taking no joy in anything in life, right? She simply was miserable and wanted to know what to do about it. After a few conversations, it became clear to me what she was unhappy with. She had rebounded and married a man, and now a few years later, she realized she didn't love him. She did not want to be in this marriage, but she had these three children, and she believed in vows. She said, till death do us part, and she thought that she should keep her vow, right? And in general, I agree with that. If you make a vow, you should not make it in vain. If you're going to say something like that, you should try to keep it. But she was miserable. Also, she wanted to keep her family intact for the sake of her children. I completely understand it, but she was miserable. She was just hated every day. And it's like 25 years old. She hadn't lived life. She hadn't really gone out and seen the world. Yes, she went to college. She was a cheerleader. She had a great time. Still had friends from those days. Like I said, she showed me pictures of when she was a cheerleader. She was as thin as a piece of paper. And as she sat there in my office, she was extremely overweight. She said that she said there are two of me in here, right? I have enough weight to supply two of me from those cheerleading days. And she laughed about it, but I knew she was self-deprecating. She wasn't happy about having all that weight, and she really didn't need to carry that weight. She put it on herself because of her unhappiness and her misery, right? So we finally figured out that, so I finally got her to admit that she was unhappy in her marriage, and she finally said that, yes, I married him on the rebound. I don't love him. I don't really want to be here, right? But she didn't know what to do. So we're talking about this, and one point I said, so are you waiting for God to release you? Now, some of you might know what I mean by that. The vow says, till death do us part. So I said, okay, you're going to wait 80 years until God releases you? And she sat there and she said, right now it just seems like that, right? In the meantime, we're trying to figure out what she's going to do. I don't like divorce. I don't advocate divorce. But, Dennis Prager once said he didn't like divorce either, but he didn't think marriage should be a life sentence. In other words, it shouldn't be that miserable. It should be the happiest part of your life, not the worst, right? Didn't think it should be a life sentence. So I'm sitting with this woman. We're talking week after week after week. And we're really not getting anywhere because she felt stuck. The only benefit I was providing for this lady was I was giving her a place to vent. She could complain about what was going on with her life and with her husband that she didn't like, and she was doing it in a safe environment. It wasn't going to come back to haunt her, right? So, I don't know, after about 10 weeks or so, somewhere in there, the husband starts calling me, right? And one time he shows up at my office at her appointment time. And he comes in, he sits down, and he says, my wife isn't coming here anymore. Don't bother her, don't call her, don't accept her calls, etc., etc. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm getting a little inkling of why this lady isn't quite so happy in her marriage, right? He wasn't terribly threatening me, but there was a kind of a threat, a veiled threat, not a physical threat, but sort of like I'm going to complain and make noise and then bother you sort of a threat, right? So he told me not to see her again. And what happens is she showed up for her appointment time. She made another appointment since he took hers. And she showed up for that. And I told her what had happened. I said, your husband came. He told me not to talk to you anymore. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I know exactly why the husband wants me to stop talking to the wife, because the wife was coming home and she was not being the same sweet, dismissive or obedient type of wife that he was used to, right? She was starting to make her unhappiness known, and he noticed it, and he figured I was the cause of her change in behavior. He was blaming me for it. I knew full well that wasn't true. She was just starting to become honest with herself, and subsequently she's slowly becoming honest with her husband. He's noticing a change he doesn't like. He wants her to be obedient. She's starting to not be obedient. And therein lies the rub, right? So he's threatening me, stay away from my wife. She's saying, I need to talk to someone. I'm going to go nuts, right? And so I'm talking to this lady. I saw the husband about 3 times. He didn't really accomplish anything, just told me that, he was having stresses in his life, trying to keep up with the bills and so forth. And he wanted his wife to be happy. And I know he wanted me to give him secret information that I had heard from his wife, which of course I was not going to do. So that didn't work very well for him. Finally, I spoke to the wife one last time and we discussed it. I say, I don't know how I can help you because something needs to change and you're not willing to change it. I completely get that. The bottom line on all this stuff, the reason she was resistant to change it, I said, it's just go talk to your husband, sit down, talk these things over, work something out. And that's what she could not do because she knew she started talking about these sorts of things, it was going to blow up. It was going to be a Pandora's box and all the evils of the world were going to come out. There's going to be difficulties in their marriage and their relationship and in their family. And I'm asking her, do you fear divorce? Is that it? I said, you can't talk to your husband? I mean, you've only been married a few years and already you've got so many walls built up between the two of you that you can't talk? She sort of didn't respond to that, but it was true. She couldn't talk to him and they weren't going to work anything out. That was then. Finally, she went on her way and pretty much I knew what was going to happen. I knew it was going to be a couple of things. I'm sure you can guess them too. She was going to stay married because of her children and because of her vow. She was going to be more and more unhappy. She was gaining weight. Who knows? She might have become twice as heavy as she was at that point when I knew her, right? Maybe she'd start drinking a little bit of wine to take the edge off. I'm not saying that was the case, but you never know. Over time, people need a way to get rid of all the negativity and the angst, the depression that they carry. Things would happen. She would either leave that relationship in time or she would stay and be miserable, and those children would be affected by the misery of their mother and that relationship. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because last week I had a similar conversation. It's not the first one. It wasn't even the last one. It comes up often. And usually, I'm not picking on you ladies, but usually it's the women who are afraid to speak to their husbands. I completely get it. I really do. But the fear is it's going to wreck the relationship. It's going to wreck the family. It's going to wreck the home. And I say, well, if it has a negative effect in the beginning, I believe you. But the truth of the matter is, I think it'd probably get better over time if you're honest with each other. Work something out that allows you to breathe and become a full person again. Most of the women that I speak to that have this kind of resistance about talking about problems in the relationships, they have very sheltered, small lives. They're not doing much outside of the family. And that's one of the reasons they're so unhappy. This lady last week and the lady from 25 years ago, I told them the same things. Go out and do something in the community. I say, maybe you don't need any money, but get a job, even a part-time little job, just to get out of the house and to be involved with other people. Do things. If you have interests, pursue them. Get out of this rut that you're in because it's not making you happy. Well, the husband from long ago, he didn't want to be talking to his wife because it was upsetting him and his house and his relationship the way he wanted it. The same thing is happening now. The lady I spoke to a couple of days ago, I've been talking to her for a while. Her husband has asked her several times, "You still talking to that counselor?" I said, well, of course she's talking to the counselor. I said, doesn't he know you're unhappy? Can't he see it? Can't you feel that he knows you're miserable? You think he's not aware of it? I say, why would it be a problem to say it and discuss it and work something out, right? Find some way to step out of your unhappiness, your patterns of routine, and do something different with your life. I would think he would want you to be happy. I would think he would want to help you find ways that you can enjoy your life more. Otherwise, you're sitting here being miserable all week long, and that can't be making him happy. He comes home to a wife in a dark mood. Maybe she's not complaining at him. Maybe she's trying to be dutiful, etc., etc., etc. But he has to be able to feel it, right? She didn't want to talk about it. So that's the issue I wanted to raise for you folks. I've sort of approached this a couple times, but I mention it again. What is your fear about speaking to your mate? And this is not only women, please forgive me. Men can do the same thing. If they see that there's something wrong with the relationship or something that somebody's not happy, they have a fear of speaking about it as well. What prevents you from sitting down, looking at the issues that are going on between you and working something out? It does not have to end in divorce. It does not have to end in acrimony. It can work out to something beautiful if you sit and talk about it, work out a plan of action, adjust as you go, and try to let the other person, your partner, be happy in life and with the life that you're living. Help that person. If you love this person, wouldn't that be your first desire? Is to please her, to please him, make them happy, allow them to be happy, support them to be happy. What is wrong with talking? Folks, please let me know what you think. What are the solutions here? Like I say, I know how difficult it is. I've been there myself. I completely get it. And I know the solution is to talk. Either that or the thing's going to crack apart sooner or later, some way or another. Something negative is going to happen because you haven't addressed the elephants in the room, and everybody knows they're there. We got to learn how to talk, folks. So that's what's been going on with me this week. If you all want to chime in and help each other out with suggestions, please do that. And if you have some ideas and you figured out ways to open up communication with your spouse, please share those ideas. I always use some good different directions to share with other people. We're trying to make relationships happy again. We're trying to fall in love again. We're trying to be ecstatic about the way we're living and the things we're doing. We want to be happy, and we want our loved ones to be happy. You have any thoughts about that, please share them. We can all benefit from them. And by the way, if you think I'm wrong about talking about issues, say that too. Say why. Say what you think is going to go wrong. Say what you predict would happen if a married couple are honest with one another. I think it's a solution. What do you think? Just saying. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time.